Well, this is some leading edge work. So at Northeastern, President Joseph Aoun is working on a book about this very topic. It's called Robot Proof Skills, and it delves into the future of employment and the implications for a college education. And I've been helping him with that project, and so we've been deeply immersed in the educational side of all these conversations for about the past year. And the fact that Pearson and Oxford and Nesta are leading this work is fantastic, because it is not only where the conversation about employment is going, I think it's also about where the conversation on education is going.
I guess I've learned that there are lots of people from a variety of different backgrounds or current occupations thinking about the very same issues that we have to think of jobs for the future. But we're thinking about them in slightly different ways in terms of whether people are looking at what are the investment opportunities, or what are we doing for training for higher ed, or how am I thinking about teaching at Harvard Business School. I mean, what are those future trends and how are they impacting the way we do our work?
I'm really interested in this project because I feel that whilst it's difficult to get the politics right to make the effective decisions that we need for the workforce in the future, the policy's not quite right either, and anything that can better inform the policy making is a big tick in my books. It's been really, really interesting, particularly hearing the views of the rest of the group and how that's going to inform the machine learning, which I'm particularly excited about. I've never come across such a methodology. I'm sure it's been out there, but I've never come across it, and it's quite exciting to be involved in that.
Well, I think the main technological trend is about the impact of increasing automation, artificial intelligence, but I think one of the other things that's come out is actually how important other trends are going to be. What happens to the UK after Brexit? What happens? Do we build lots more houses? And things like this. So there are a lot of political factors which may be just as important as the technological factors in determining what happens over the next 15, 20 years.
What's come across in the research that we've done in preparation for the workshop today has been that it's a mix of skills and being very flexible in the way that you apply your skills. So if you have skills in retail, you might not be operating in the same way in the future, but there's certainly going to be plenty of opportunity to sell things to people. So it's not so much about seeing what your parents did and deciding that that's something that you'd like to do. It's about looking into the future and seeing how you could use the skills behind that activity.
I think what's interesting about the project is that the public discourse around automation is quite narrow and limited. We're very focused on job loss, and particularly at the low-skilled end. And I actually think from my experience of doing the job that I do, the influences on jobs of the future are not just technological, but they're social, they're political, they're policy, and there are some really interesting new skills that are being developed that don't relate just to technology. So I think it's interesting to broaden the debate, and that seems to be happening today.
I've been working on this project of trying to figure out, like I say, kind of the macro consequences, the overall consequences of some of these trends. So we know that when you invent tractors, you put a lot of people who work by hand out of work. But does that mean there's going to be fewer jobs overall? Or does that mean people are richer or poorer? And there's actually a fair amount of uncertainty and possibly confusion in the room, or at least uncertainty about how these big picture trends are going to play out in that way. We can easily think about one job. Are there going to be more elevator repairmen or not? We can at least think about that. But does that mean that people are going to go find similar jobs that we haven't even been able to think about? Or are they really just going to retire from the labor force? That kind of thing is harder. I knew it would be harder, so that's why I'm not sure it was a surprise exactly. But the amount of kind of the salience of that issue and the lack of consensus about how to think about that issue is surprising to me.
I'm not sure that there was a huge divergence in terms of what I saw happening and what the experts thought might happen. There was one question about administrative professionals, where I think perhaps more people see that being automated away than I do. I think that there is a sort of core human capability to having somebody who can coordinate things and administer things that, even though some of their functions, like payroll, might be automated by software, having somebody who can take care of all of those and do it in a very, sort of ad hoc, improvisational way, I personally think is something that's going to persist. And so, that was one area where I think the room maybe thought more of that would get automated, and I didn't.